All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're privileged that our guest, Charles Krauthammer, consented to stay for a second segment. The Pulitzer Prize-winning author, columnist, commentator. You watch him every day on Fox News Channel, on Bret Baier's show. Read him in the Washington Post and on papers around the country. And he is the author of the book that's #1 today, ding, 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 on Amazon, and that is Things That Matter, 3 Decades of Passions, Pastimes, and Politics. So Charles, let me ask you a question. What do you think is the most important column that you have ever penned? Maybe at the time, at the most important column that you felt at the time, this is it. The gravitas is really in this one because of many extenuating circumstances.
You're asking a parent to say which is his favorite child.
I know. I asked the tough ones.
Oh, well, no, I know. It's like, whenever you have to cut your copy, you love every word you wrote. It's very difficult to say. And I've been pretty consistent in misjudging the effect of my columns. There have been some that I've written that I thought were really terrific, and they don't leave a trace. Others that I thought would have no effect, and all of a sudden they cause a wildfire. I mean, the column that I think got the most response ever was in defense of the Border Collie, where I was nominated for president of the American Border Collie Society. I think probably the most important one I wrote is the one I wrote on 9/11 that afternoon that was published the very next morning in the Washington Post, where I just couldn't believe how Bush administration officials were still speaking in law enforcement terms about bringing people to justice. And I wrote in the column, after Pearl Harbor, FDR did not go to the Congress and say, I want to bring General Tojo to justice and the pilots who attacked Pearl Harbor. He understood this was a matter of war, and that the criminal justice system had no application to this. So that was, I think, the one that was the most important, and it was important because we had to. One of the reasons we suffered 9/11 is because we had not understood that the threat of Islamist terror was a matter of war and not law enforcement. So I would say that's probably the most important.
And what was the most interesting? Looking back now, not at the time, but looking back, non-political, and talk about how you spend your non-political time. I mean, I know you love baseball and various other activities, and you have other passions which are all expressed in your columns throughout the years. But talk about when Charles Krauthammer's not on camera, aside from like me, watching and listening and absorbing and thinking about the next column for yourself or the next commentary. But what do you do for enjoyment besides your political life?
Well, until recently, we had a bunch of guys, about a dozen of us, journalists, lawyers, and assorted people around town that would meet. I wrote a column about this called The Pariah Chess Club. We'd meet on Monday nights at my house and play speed chess, the kind you see in the park.
Right.
With clocks flying, pieces flying. We don't sit back with a pipe in an overstuffed chair and take 3-hour games. The game is played in 5 minutes, so you play about 20 a night. It's like in pool. You rack them up as soon as you're done.
Right.
And it's fast and furious. There's a little bit of money riding on it, but it's mostly pride. And that but we had that going for about 10 or 12 years. And that's a lot of fun, especially because it was fairly high level and very collegial. Now, I admitted on the documentary that Fox ran last night on me that I gave it up. And Bret Baier asked me why. And I said, because it's a bloody addiction, because it's a poison. And after you find yourself playing speed chess on the Internet at 3 in the morning, you feel like an alcoholic who's alone in a motel room drinking Aqua Velva.
Wow.
And you realize you got to stop. So temporarily, I'm off the wagon. I don't know, on the wagon. I don't even know. Am I on or off the wagon?
Seinfeld did a bit about that once.
Yeah.
I don't know the deal either. Off or on.
I think I'm off the wagon for now.
Charles, what about baseball? You following the World Series? I mean, we've had 2 games end in an unprecedented manner. The interference call, obstruction call in Game 3, and last night's pickoff at first base with Beltran as the tying run at the plate.
Yeah, this is sort of weirdness squared. And that's what you love about baseball. One of the cliches about baseball is if you go to a game, chances are you will see something you've never seen before. And there are a million games played, but there's always something peculiar. For two of them to happen in a row in a World Series is pretty. But that's why I love the game. And in fact, I write. There are several columns on baseball, including one called "The Joy of Losing," which I wrote in 2009 when my team was, I think, it lost 103 games, and people found it extremely eccentric of me that I kept going. And I try to explain that when you have a winning team, you go to watch them win. When you have a losing team, you go to watch the game.
Right.
And the intricacies and the elegance of
Are you a Cubs fan?
Oh, no.
No,
I suffer enough.
Okay, who's the team that lost 108 game? Which one?
The Washington Nationals.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
before they became good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going through that with the New Jersey Devils right now. I think they've won one out of their last 10, and it's pretty sad. Anyway, Charles, it has been an honor to speak to you, and the book is full of these kinds of things, folks. You learn a lot about the columns that Charles picked for the book by reading what's in the book, and there's many, many sides. He's a very fascinating and multifaceted man, and if you have another game you want to recommend to Charles, give him a ring at Fox, I guess, because he's probably looking for one after the speed chest went away. Thank you very much, sir. An honor to talk to you.
Pleasure.
Take care. Charles Krauthammer, ladies and gentlemen. Things That Matter, 3 decades of passions, pastimes, and politics. #1 on Amazon as we speak. So this is pretty cool. Now, confession. Usually I'm in here before. I don't hear talk radio. I listen to All News Radio on the way in, and I'm in here by a little after noon. So I don't get to hear Rush or anything. But, a talk radio person, we flip the dials. Today I got to hear the top of Rush's show, and that's where I heard him talk about that he had gotten emails. He hadn't heard it, but he had gotten emails about the special that Fox ran yesterday, about how Charles Krauthammer said that he misjudged Obama the first time around, or he didn't realize the first time around. So that's where that came from. But very interesting, fascinating man. And read it's worth it just for the personal autobiographical story of Charles Krauthammer on its own. All right, folks. So when we come back, Ted Rall, radical liberal cartoonist, blasting Obamacare and the incompetence of Obama and the people around him. You're not going to want to miss this exclusive right here. One exclusive after the other on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax.